Good evening, peoples. I'm Pastor Leia, and my co-host Ginger Snap is currently in another room. She'll probably be in a moment. So welcome back to our living room for our ongoing series on the 12 apostles. Tonight we have the most famous of the apostles, the one whose name most immediately comes to mind when you think of the apostles. Let's all say it together now. Thaddeus. Yes, Thaddeus. You might be asking yourself, who is Thaddeus? I don't remember Thaddeus saying anything in the Bible. He doesn't say anything in the Bible. Or maybe he does. We'll get there. Anyway, Thaddeus is only named twice. And just to shake things up in some manuscripts of the Gospel of Matthew, instead of just Thaddeus, we have Lebbaeus, who was surnamed Thaddeus. I swear, it was all like a grand scheme 2,000 years ago to mess with me personally. Anyway, so Matthew and Mark both list Thaddeus in their lists of the 12 disciples. The books of Luke and Acts do not. John doesn't explicitly name the 12. He just says that there are 12, and he gives some names throughout the book, but doesn't anyway. But this is the only significant difference between the four lists of the names of the apostles, because two of the lists have Thaddeus, and two of the lists have a different name in the place where that would otherwise be. So Luke and Acts, which were written by the same author, list Jude, aka Judas, not Iscariot, instead of Thaddeus, and John also refers to Judas. It's okay, the good Judas, not the bad Judas. Yeah, and it seems easier to refer to Thaddeus rather than Judas, but, not that one. Fewer syllables. English Bibles tend to have Jude instead of Judas, literally for that reason. Anyway, so, much like Jude is a shortened version of the name Judas. In different languages, some names come out a bit differently, like Thomas becomes Tomas, or James becomes Iago, which is not slightly different. That's pretty noticeably different, but that's not the point. Anyway, so in different languages, names might be a little bit different, but also the shortened version or the diminutive might be a little bit different. So in English, we would probably refer to Thaddeus as Thad for short. But in Dutch, and this is a fun fact that doesn't really have much to do with anything, but I couldn't possibly not share it with you. In Dutch, the diminutive of Thaddeus is taco. Taco. Like my cat's taco bed. Because yes, my cat has a taco bed. Anyway, yeah, so Taco, Saint Taco the Apostle. This, again, has nothing to do with any point that I'm trying to make, but I couldn't not share that fun fact. Anyway, so like I said, two authors named Thaddeus and two authors named Jude. What's with that? So, among our theories, Thaddeus was a nickname. Sure, why not? His name was Jude Thaddeus, and so two authors are referring to him by his first name and two authors are referring to him by his last name. It kind of seems like it would then be easier to say Jude Thaddeus rather than Judas not Iscariot, but whatever. Another theory is that Jude and Thaddeus were in fact different people, and they were both disciples, but at different times, because one replaced the other due to apostasy or death. Apostasy being going back on beliefs that were previously held. So another theory is that they were indeed different people, and they were indeed both disciples, but at the same time, because the 12 disciples was always more symbolic than literal. My very silly theory. Mark, which was written first, accidentally got one name wrong because, maybe he hung out with the other 10 guys more often and then kind of forgot the other guy's name, and then, gets to the point where it's kind of embarrassing to ask at this point, and name tags haven't actually really, well, they've kind of actually been invented, but that's not the point. And then so Matthew was then later looking over Mark's notes and copied the same wrong name, whereas Luke and John got it right. This is, or vice versa, that's, anyway, silly theory. So that's about as much as can be said about Thaddeus, the disciple as named in the Bible. So, But maybe he is the same person as St. Thaddeus of Edessa. If he's not, then Thaddeus of Edessa probably was not a real person. Anyway, so Thaddeus of Edessa was born in Edessa. Makes sense. He was a Jew, so he went to Jerusalem. He met John the Baptist. He was baptized, and he ended up becoming a follower of Jesus. So he later preached in Mesopotamia, Syria, and Turkey, and he might have built a church in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. So after Jesus died, Thomas sent him back to Edessa to heal its king. So the king is usually named as Abgar in like the medieval sources that tell this story, but in one Latin source, his name is Akbar, which is probably a typo, to be honest, but we probably shouldn't spend too much time focusing on, the exact spellings or whatever of people's names, because of course, it's a trap. Thank you to the one person who laughed at that Star Wars joke, because there's a character named Admiral Akbar, and he says it's a trap. Anyway, yeah, Star Wars. So anyway, Thaddeus of Edessa died peacefully in the year 44. If Thaddeus is the same person as Jude, then the story, according to legend, goes that he was martyred in Beirut with like an axe or a club or a halberd, or anyway, much less pleasant than dying peacefully. So if Thaddeus was not Jude, or was not somehow one of the 12 apostles, he definitely was one of the 70 or 72 apostles. So we have one reference in Luke to them. So in Luke 10, after this, the Lord appointed 70 others and sent them on ahead of him to pairs in every town and place where he himself intended to go. He said to them, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into the harvest. Go on your way. See, I am sending you out like lambs in the midst of wolves." This is the word of the Lord. So some sources have the number 70, some have the number as 72. So, yeah, Thaddeus, everyone's favorite apostle, the one they think of the most often. So we've been going through these guys alphabetically, which means that next week we have Thomas, who is a little bit more well known and shows up and has speaking lines. Anyway, so until then, good night.